What's up, guys? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, a Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans by fans. Make sure you smash up that like button down below and hit that subscribe button to join the Royal family with Calvin and I. And if you want to be notified every time we put out a new video, make sure you hit that cowbell notification as well. Fred's getting excited for football Sunday. Yes, it is very, very exciting. Rams, Niners.
It's very exciting in this house, I will tell you that.
We got Bengals. Who are the Bengals playing again? Oh, the Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
That Chiefs game was amazing last weekend.
All four of those games. Easy to say, because it's such recent memory, but that may have been the best weekend of playoff football I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And apparently in today's news, I guess it's not official yet, but Tom Brady is retiring. Shout out to the GOAT. Man.
Yep.
I just feel lucky to be able to see him. All right, moving on here. So we have a new format announced for All-Star Weekend. This is only for the Rising Stars game has been replaced with a little mini tournament bracket. So how it works, there will be a pool of 28 players, 12 NBA rookies, 12 NBA sophomores, and 4 G League Ignite players. They will be broken down into 4 teams. The pool of NBA players will be chosen by NBA assistant coaches. Each team will be coached by a member of the NBA 75 team. And they're going to play a little bracket, a little 3-game tournament. Do you like this format, Calvin?
No, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's not any worse. Like, I don't see how these games are going to be more competitive than the alternative.
I mean, they've been talking about doing like a mid-season tournament for a long time, so maybe this is kind of a middle-of-the-road thing. Another thing that jumped out to me is the Clorox Clutch Challenge. Have you heard about this?
No, I have not.
So, in between games 2 and 3 of the Clorox Rising Stars game, that's hard to say. I don't know how Clorox got this sponsorship. But a total of 8 NBA and G League Ignite players will be divided into 4 teams of 2 and compete to make shots from 5 locations on the court tied to iconic shots made in the NBA playoffs. So this is like a 3-game tournament and like a horse competition in the middle.
Yeah, I think the NBA is just grasping at straws here, honestly.
Hey, I'm still watching, man. I love All-Star Weekend. There's no defense.
I've watched the 3-point shootout and the slam dunk contest every year for the last 20-something years. I have not watched that many actual All-Star games, though.
Lane,
those games are so tough.
What do you want me to repeat here? I mean, I'm always down for something new. I think you got to try something. We'll see if it works. Maybe they don't change the whole format for the future, but I'm down with trying new things. It's interesting to me. All right, moving on here. I heard there's a karaoke contest too. No, that's here after the podcast. But so moving on here, Calvin. The Kings have officially pulled out of the Ben Simmons sweepstakes. What does this mean for Sacramento? What does this mean for Philadelphia?
Well, for Sacramento, it means there's even more pressure on the front office to make a deal now. For Philadelphia, I don't think it changes anything. I'm not really sure that they wanted to trade Ben Simmons at this point in time to any team, let alone the Sacramento Kings. We've heard, rumblings that they want to wait until this summer. They're hoping for James Harden, all that stuff. And they're still in the middle of the playoff chase right now. I mean, more than in the middle of it, they are a playoff team as the way it sits right now. So I don't think this changes anything really for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm not really buying this rumor at all. I feel like it's a smokescreen. I feel like these guys are just they've been in intense negotiations for months now, And I feel like the takeaway or the pullback is the ultimate final move in a negotiation, right? It's like going to a car dealership where you're negotiating on the price of the car and they're like, nope, we can't budge. This is our final deal. And you're like, okay, I'm out. I can't afford that. And you turn out, you walk out, they follow you out to the parking lot and they're like, okay, we can work with you a little bit more. What will it take to put you in this car today? And I mean, Maury and Monty are coworkers, they're friends. They've known each other for a really long time. I'm sure they know exactly what each other is thinking during this whole negotiation process. And I honestly feel it's just Monty saying, sorry, that's too much, I'm out. And they'll probably reconvene in a day or two. Maybe they're having dinner after the game tonight. I don't really know. But I don't think it's over.
Yeah, you could be right about that. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be surprised to hear that that's the tactic here in the negotiations. And perhaps Monty McNair has already used that tactic like 4 or 5 times now. So he might become a little bit something like the boy who cried wolf here at some point, in which he's just going to keep hoping that the door gets opened up again, but maybe it's closed for good this time. Again, I don't know. There's so much to speculate with. You certainly don't hear about any of the other conversations he's having with other GMs around the league. But as a fan of this team, you have to be a little bit nervous to hear that he pulled out of the deal. I mean, I don't think anybody wants the Kings to give up what they would consider being too much for a guy like Ben Simmons. Mm-hmm. There's maybe a handful of people who believe that there isn't a package that's too big for him, but it's just a little bit nerve-wracking because you're like, we can't get through another one of these trade deadlines without there being some type of meaningful move made here. So if you're going to pull the plug on this potential deal when everything that we've heard from Daryl Morey, from Adrian Wojnarowski, from all these guys is that there is a path to success in this deal. These two teams can get on the same page and make this happen. Mm-hmm. So if you're punting on this, you better have something in your back pocket that's going to be pretty good.
And it's a little weird that your best player in De'Aaron Fox, the guy who has been most mentioned in trade rumors,
choosing not to play,
is, I don't know if I don't want to go that far, but he's not on the court.
He's telling them that his ankle hurts too much to play.
He's not on the court.
Just like Ben Simmons is telling Philadelphia that his brain hurts too much to play.
I mean, at least he's not doing what Antonio Brown did and ripping his jersey off and walking off the field and say, I quit.
That'd be the most exciting thing to happen. Are you talking about De'Aaron Fox or Ben Simmons?
De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, that'd be the most exciting thing to happen to the Kings all year. I would love that.
Oh, man. There's got to be – there's something holding up this deal. And it's funny. We've been talking about it for so long. And what did I say early on in the season when De'Aaron Fox was struggling? I was like, it feels like a car crash that you could see coming from a mile away, right? We're like, Sacramento is going to end up trading for Ben Simmons. It's just a matter of when and what it's going to take. And I think that's the thing, right, is they just keep having this back and forth. And there has to be something that held up this deal at this point. Maybe it was Haliburton and 3 first-round picks or whatever, and the pick swaps.
Clearly a lot of things that have held up this deal.
Yeah, maybe it's the Tobias Harris thing and the big salary for him. Maybe it's Sacramento wanting a guy like Matisse Thybulle back in this deal. But both teams need to make a deal. That's the honest truth. A lot of people would say, well, Philadelphia is playing pretty well. Yes, they are, but the regular season is much different than the playoffs. And if they plan on being competitive this season in the playoffs, they need to make a move now because whoever you're bringing in that's replacing Ben Simmons, you got to integrate them into the team.
Yeah.
You got to get them familiar with the system, with some of these other players. So I think Ben Simmons will get traded before the deadline. I think it'll probably be to the Sacramento Kings, to be honest with you. But I'm not buying this Kings just backed out right now unless they have a deal on the table for Sabonis or one of these other bigger guys, I still believe that Ben Simmons is the big prize for Sacramento.
Yeah, I agree that there's clearly so much going on behind closed doors and stuff that we're never going to know about until, a deal actually happens. So I think it's unfair to jump on Monty McNair right now and say, this is another example of why he hasn't done a good job here and he should be fired and all that stuff. Time may be running out for him, but it's not over yet. I mean, you don't do something like this just because you got mad at Daryl Morey on the phone one day and you're like, you know what? We're not trading for Ben Simmons anymore. Screw you guys. So he's clearly still doing a lot of work. The question is, what is eventually going to happen here? Because there's not a whole lot of time left.
Alfie, I'm not sure what you're asking here. I'm always willing to do things to give the Kings good luck. A double dip in the ocean. I mean, I was in the ocean yesterday. I was hanging out at the beach yesterday, but what do you mean by double? What's a double dip? You know what a double dip is?
Yeah, I believe that's when you scoop one ranch, dip ranch one time, take a bite, then dip again.
Oh, okay.
Double
dip in the ocean. Interesting. I'll have to try that out. Maybe the Kings will win the next game. I'll try it. Brian wants Monty to do a press conference and give away all the things that he's been working on. I mean, as a fan, yes, that would be nice, but at the same time, keep it internal, man. Don't spill the beans. We don't need to give these other GMs and these other teams any leverage in any deal. It's hard enough working a deal, being the GM of the Sacramento Kings in the first place. All right. You want to talk any more about Ben Simmons? Are you ready to move on?
I don't know what else to say about Ben Simmons at this point.
You think a trade will happen? Maybe not with Sacramento, but I'm just asking in general before the trade deadline.
Will Ben Simmons be dealt before the trade deadline?
Yeah.
At this point, if I had to put money on it, I would say no.
Yeah, Vinny loves to laugh, man. He's got a good one. Also, I want to remind you all, if you haven't watched the Royal Report that we produce on Fridays, make sure you guys check it out. It was an awesome show yesterday. We talked about a lot of different things, had some trades. Hopefully, we're going to have James Ham on this next week. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Every Friday, we wrap up the entire week of Kings action in about 30 to 45 minutes. All right, moving on here, Calvin. I was watching Deuce and Mo just a few days ago. They had Sean Cunningham on there, and they were talking about trades and deals and what's going to happen. I was pretty surprised to hear that Sean Cunningham said that the Knicks might be interested in moving a guy like Julius Randle, and the Kings could potentially be involved in this deal.
Yeah, I don't know how surprised I am to hear that the Kings could be involved. I mean, I feel like the Kings should be on every team's radar right now if one of their better players is available for a trade, seeing as how the Kings are probably the most supposed to be the most active team in the league at the trade deadline. As far as Julius Randle being available, this is another team.
Thank you, sir.
That has had high hopes for the past couple of seasons, or at least much higher hopes than what they've been used to for previous years before that. Hasn't quite worked out the way that they wanted it to. They've been hit pretty hard with injuries also, but they're another team. I feel like they took a big chance getting Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier this year. I personally thought that was going to work out better for them than it actually did. But it's just another case of a team being, right on the fringe there of being a really solid competitive team and being one of those, middle of the pack teams that just kind of gets forgotten. You're not at the bottom of the conference nor at the top or in the playoffs. You're just kind of in this abyss of forgotten teams. So, in that regard, I think every team in those situations tries to assess what's best for them when the trade deadline comes around, and is it really worth trading,
Thank you, bartender.
one of your best, if not your best players? Sure, I'll take one, please. Thank you. Man, what a life we live. I'm sitting here talking about basketball, and Vinny asked me if I want another beer. Upstairs would be good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you could say that last year for the Knicks was quote-unquote fool's gold because they had such an amazing season. I like Julius Randle a lot. I was actually very disappointed seeing the Lakers draft him because I knew this guy was going to be a good NBA player. Yeah. But he has struggled this season. I'm not sure exactly how he would fit on this Kings team, but he does play a position in need, the 4. And for me, it's, we could talk about all these guys in the NBA that I would love to have on the Kings, but it really all comes down to what it costs, right? Like what the dollar value, or in NBA terms, what is it going to take to trade for this guy? Is it going to take picks? Is it going to take players? What needs to be exchanged for a guy like Julius Randle? I'm down for any deal that helps the Kings, but it has to help them. So am I trading a guy like De'Aaron Fox for Julius Randle? Probably not. But if I could flip a deal with maybe Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, a pick, something like that for Julius Randle, I'd be more open to something like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think if you told me that you could add Julius Randle to this team and you wouldn't have to give up either Fox or Haliburton, I would say do it immediately. I think Julius Randle is slowly getting better and better in this league. He's a real dominant force at the power forward spot. He's kind of like a Chris Webber type player, actually. Really solid all-around offensive game, has a decent outside shot, post-up game, all that stuff. And, his bugaboo, which I don't really think is necessarily all, on his shoulders, is just that he hasn't, taken the team's success to the next level. Knicks got a home court advantage playoff series last year. Everybody expected them to be kind of in that same boat or better this season, and they've been much worse than that. So if you're telling me that you can go and get Julius Randle on this team, I think that the Kings absolutely should.
Yeah, I mean, they need to do something, right? They need to do something. And on that note, I want to talk about a fan-submitted trade by GP. Shout out. And, if any of you guys want us to break down trades and give our thoughts, just let us know down below in the comments. We'd be happy to, give our insights. This, Calvin, is an absolute blockbuster deal. Probably one of the biggest trades I've ever seen. It's a 4-team deal: Boston, Dallas, New York, and Sacramento. To start off here, I want to just say, I don't know how realistic this deal is, just because
this is the craziest trade I've ever seen in
just because the fact that
it's basically 4 teams taking all their players and sending them to another team.
There's so many players involved. There's so many teams involved. Yet Boston is a team that needs to make a move. Dallas needs to make a move. They lost Tim Hardaway. The Knicks looking like they need to make a move, and Sacramento needs to make a move. So, this trade may seem pretty unrealistic, but I get where GP's coming from here in the fact that all these teams need to make a move. There's just a lot of players and a lot of moving pieces in this. So, to start off here, this is going to be difficult because there's so much going on. But Boston receives...
Get a pen and pencil, you guys.
Boston receives Jalen Brunson,
pen and paper.
Dwight Powell, Sterling Brown, Trey Burke, a 2025 second-round pick, all from Dallas, and Buddy Hield. Dallas receives Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, 2025 first-round pick. This is all from Boston. Nerlens Noel, Kemba Walker, and a 2023 and 2024 second-round pick, all from New York, and Terrence Davis. The Knicks receive Maxi Kleber, De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley, and Tristan Thompson. And the Kings receive Al Horford, Reggie Bullock, Julius Randle, Alex Burks, Taj Gibson, Emmanuel Quickley, a 2022 first and second round pick from Boston, 2023, 2024 second round pick from the Knicks, and 2025 second round pick from Boston. There is a ton going on here, a lot of moving parts. I'm not going to say it again, but I mean, Calvin, you look at this, the Knicks get their guy in De'Aaron Fox. They get an upgrade in Marvin Bagley, or not an upgrade, but a high upside player. They do end up losing Julius Randle. Dallas gets their shooting guard and another backup point guard and some more depth in this deal. Boston receives a bunch of young guys and a shooter in Buddy Hield. And the Kings get Al Horford, which I'd say is a veteran leader. I think Boston's trying to move him. They get a shooter in Bullock, a potential guy to build around in Julius Randle, and a bunch of other options in a first-round pick. So I want to hear your overall thoughts on this deal.
I'm not even sure where to begin on this deal. It's first of all that I love the creativity of some of these trades. Like to actually sit down and put this deal together. You really had to take some time and think about it and spend time making this all work out. So kudos to GP for that. The likelihood of a deal like this ever happening is almost infinitesimal. Like for 4 GMs to actually get all the paperwork done on all of these moving pieces, all these players, these picks, all of that stuff, it's the likelihood of this happening is practically nothing. That being said, there's certainly reasons to like this trade if you're every team, I think. There's so many moving pieces that it's almost impossible not to. I do think that out of any team, Sacramento probably has the worst deal here in all 4 of these. Out of all 4 of these teams, they certainly get a bunch of draft picks, which is nice. I don't know how great those draft picks are going to be ultimately, but they get some draft picks. I like adding shooters around Tyrese Haliburton, like Bullock and Alec Burks. Their front line is now even more jam-packed and jumbled up than it was before. You get rid of Marvin Bagley, but you're bringing in Julius Randle, Al Horford, and Taj Gibson to go along with all the other forwards and centers that you have on this team. So clearly there needs to be, probably 2 more deals to happen after that just to clear up the depth chart on this team. So, it's hard for me to say if you told me that this deal was actually doable, I'd have to think about it a lot, but I'm not so sure that, or I feel as if Sacramento is the loser of this trade ultimately.
Yeah, I think they're giving up a lot. And I just feel like trades like this, there's just so many moving pieces and so many parts, and chemistry is such an important part for NBA teams that I don't see them doing the deal, maybe an off-season deal, but in the middle of the season, it makes it even increasingly harder to do a deal like this. But I agree with you. If I'm giving up De'Aaron Fox, I think I want a little bit more back in return. And they're giving up a bunch of other guys as well. However, I do have to say that this inspired me, Calvin. It inspired me to come up with my own Blockbuster deal. And I want to talk about that now. So, Vinny, can you show my screen here? And I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I think this is a little bit more realistic. And I'm making 2 deals here to close out this season, and then I'm going to revisit everything in the offseason. So I kind of want to hear all your thoughts on this. And before you guys get angry, I'm not advocating to trade De'Aaron Fox. I'm just having a little fun here, trying to move pieces around and make a team that fits together a little bit better than this current Kings team. So here we go, Calvin. I know you're a big fan of Miles Turner. I know you love Caris LeVert.
Yes, I do love both those guys.
I was a little surprised when I was looking this up that Caris LeVert's already 27 years old.
Yep.
I mean, that's not old, but in the NBA, it's a little bit older. He's a little bit older than some of these core players that are currently on the Kings that they would be building around. But I like this deal. I don't know if Miles Turner is going to be available at all for the Kings through the rest of the season. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think this trade could help the Kings next season and help them secure a better draft pick this season. So first off, the Kings would make their first deal with the Pacers, and it would be De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley for Miles Turner, Caris LeVert, and an Indiana first-round pick this season.
Not pictured.
Not pictured. But I have a whole breakdown I'll show you guys in a second. So let me know how you guys feel about that deal. Now, the second deal that I would make is with the Boston Celtics. We've heard about Marcus Smart having issues with Brown and Tatum and calling guys out. They've also seemed to want to move on from Al Horford. This is the second time they've tried to move on from Al Horford, right? They let him go. He signed with Philadelphia. They bring him back again. Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, and a first-round pick from Boston. I think this helps Boston get off that Al Horford salary. It adds them more shooting and a veteran in Harrison Barnes that could help them get a little bit further in the playoffs this season. I think this is a good deal. I mean, if I'm Boston, maybe I'm not going to make this deal, but I think this is a good deal for Sacramento. So, moving on here, I want to show you guys what this looks like for your Kings. Oh, sorry, Vinny. You could just take us out of here and just put the whole thing on there. So, Fox and Bagley for Turner and LeVert and a first-round pick. Hield and Barnes for Smart and Horford and a first-round pick. And then I had another deal. Tristan Thompson to a contender for a second-rounder. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can make this thing fit in there. What do you think about this deal so far, Calvin?
I think these moves are really good. I mean, these are deals I think that we've talked about, in separate pieces kind of throughout the season, maybe not for the exact group of players that you have here, but we've talked about trading for Marcus Smart. We've talked about trading for Miles Turner a lot. If the Kings were able to pull those deals off, I'm good with it. Like, you're getting draft picks in return on top of this. I'm not a big fan of taking on Al Horford's contract. I feel as though he is very much a shell of himself in terms of a player. I'm not really sure what he would bring to this team other than, the veteran leadership and all that stuff. But I feel like this team has some pretty good options at center already right now. If we just put together a better roster around them all together, then that they would be in a good position. So that being said, I'm still okay with doing this deal if you get Marcus Smart and you get a first-round draft pick. You have to be willing to part ways with De'Aaron Fox ultimately if you're going to do this deal or do these deals. But again, like we've said before, at the end of the day, the Kings, this roster is not working. It's not good enough. They're not a competitive team. So you have to be willing to look at all options in terms of improving the talent on this roster from top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree. So, what does this mean for Sacramento? This gives you a starting lineup of Haliburton, Marcus Smart, Caris LeVert, Richaun Holmes, Miles Turner. Now, this might be your starting lineup next season because we don't know how long it's going to take for Miles Turner to recover from that foot injury and come back. But I think that's a pretty good starting lineup. It gives the keys to Tyrese Haliburton. It gives you your dog in Marcus Smart, who's going to push these younger guys to be better. He's going to be the vocal leader of this team. He's made a lot of smart moves in his career. He's also made a lot of dumb moves, but I love the fire that comes from him, and I think that that's contagious. It gives you a guy in LeVert who can space the floor, shoot very well. It moves Richaun Holmes to that 4 spot, which I think is a little bit better for him, especially on the defensive end of the floor. And it gives you a guy like Miles Turner who can protect the rim and also space the floor as well. So, you know, you look at Haliburton, Smart, LeVert, Turner, all these guys are capable three-point shooters. Richaun Holmes is not, but I think that's okay. As long as you have 4 guys on the court that can shoot the ball, I like this starting lineup. Now, what does this mean for your bench? Your bench becomes Davion Mitchell, Terrence Davis, Mo Harkless, Metu, Al Horford. As you mentioned, Al Horford is probably past his prime, and that's the reason why I didn't throw him here in the starting lineup. However, if you're a team like Sacramento and you want to get a guy like Marcus Smart, you want to get a first-round pick from Boston, you have to do deals to take on big salaries and help teams out. You look at what Oklahoma City has done. They've been willing to absorb salaries to collect draft picks and stuff like that. And I think that Al Horford could also be part of the leadership group on this Kings team, and he could lead this second unit. Now, if he wasn't willing to stay in Sacramento, I'd always entertain a buyout as well. Mm-hmm. It's important to note that Metu, his contract is not guaranteed for next season, so he potentially could not be back next season as well. If you look at the other guys on this roster, Robert Woodard, his salary is also not guaranteed for next season. Same with Jamias Ramsey. Keita is restricted free agent. If Metu doesn't stay, I would move Keita into that bench 4 position for next season. Louis King is also a restricted free agent, so the Kings have some questions to answer there as well. Alex Len is still on this team, and if Al Horford wanted a buyout, I would move Alex Len into that second-string center position. As much as we like Damian Jones, he's an unrestricted free agent at the end of this season, and I'd probably let him walk if I were able to make these deals. So I feel like this sets the Kings up really well for next season with some of these guys. And on top of that, the Kings have their own first-round pick, which potentially could be top 5 if they make these deals and they lose a guy like Miles Turner for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. They have Indiana's first-round pick, which potentially
probably a lottery pick.
Potentially could be a top 10 pick. Who knows? You know, with them adding guys like Fox and Bagley could help boost their team. And we've heard from them that they are not rebuilding. They're retooling. They're trying to add. They don't want draft picks because draft picks don't win basketball games. They want players. So that makes me think that they're even more willing to make a deal like this. On top of that, you have Boston's first-round pick. You have the Sacramento second round and this second-round pick you're getting from a contender for offloading Tristan Thompson. So if you're the Kings, you're going into this offseason with 3 first-round picks in this draft. I know people talk about this draft might not be as deep as normal or as some of these other drafts, but I feel like this front office has shown over the past 2 seasons that they're pretty good at drafting players. And giving them 3 stabs in this draft, I think is definitely a good thing. And if they were to, let's say, make a trade at the end of the season, having draft picks to throw on top can only sweeten the deal and give them more leverage. So you're going into next season with Haliburton, Smart, LeVert, Holmes, Turner, and 3 first-round picks. Calvin, I know I said a lot there. Let's hear your thoughts.
Well, as I said before, I like these moves a lot. I think that this is a pretty good blueprint for how to get the Kings into a better spot than they are currently. I mean, you're improving the overall talent on the roster. You're accumulating draft picks, first-round draft picks at the same time. I don't really see what you have to dislike about this deal unless you're one of those diehard, we cannot trade De'Aaron Fox type people. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's the wrong point of view to have, because De'Aaron Fox is a great player, and I still believe that if you get better help around him, the results would be better as well. On the other side of that coin, though, what I just said, a few minutes ago is the Kings should not be limiting themselves to a potential trade that's going to improve this team. So if De'Aaron Fox or even Tyrese Haliburton is included in one of those deals that I truly believe is going to make the Kings a better team, it's going to be really hard for me to say no to that deal. I like the individual deals here in terms of the players you're adding. It gives the Kings areas of need. It makes a splash. It brings in, bigger name players. Maybe they're not superstar level players, but these are still not the type of talent player wise that the Kings are used to, accustomed to trading for. It's in the past few years or past 10 years, whatever, it's been these minor moves that involve mostly bench players and moving salary around, so you kind of set yourself up for the offseason to where you have a little bit more cap room to, say, re-sign Rashawn Holmes or something like that. But we haven't seen the Kings really take a risk on trading for an impact right away player, a starting level player, one of another team's, 2 or 3, 4 best players on their roster. These deals do that. I mean, Marcus Smart may not be the 4th best player on the Celtics, but he's a highly regarded player for them. Great defender, vocal leader. Those are all things that the Kings need as a team. So if you rolled out with this roster and all those draft picks going into this summer, I think the Kings would be in a much better position than they are currently.
Yeah, I mean, of course I agree, since I'm the one that came up with this deal. But, a few other things. Pat
yourself on the back.
A few other things that I want to mention here. And, guys, I would love to be the GM of the Sacramento Kings, so maybe we need to start a petition or a poll for that. But I'm not trying to take Monty's job at the moment. But a couple other things I like about this deal. Haliburton's still on his rookie contract. I think Marcus Smart is on a very, very affordable contract. Same with LeVert. Same with Turner. And same with Rashawn Holmes. You're adding in 3 first-round picks who are going to be on their rookie scale deals, cheap as well. You're getting rid of Harrison Barnes' contract. You're getting rid of Buddy Hield's contract. You don't have to pay Marvin Bagley. And you're getting rid of a big max contract in De'Aaron Fox. Yes, you're bringing in a ton of salary in a guy like Al Horford. But as I mentioned, he can bring good leadership to this team. And if he wanted to be bought out, or if you needed to trade him in the offseason to make cap space, you have these 3 first-round picks. You could package him in one of these first-round picks, maybe the Boston pick, to a team like Oklahoma City to get rid of his salary if you are able to sign a guy. That's the thing, is Monty said he wants to preach flexibility for this Kings team, and he wants to be able to sign big-name free agents. Now, we all know Sacramento has not been that team in the past, but that doesn't mean they can't be that in the future. We've seen it happen with many other small market teams where a good player or multiple good players or a team is playing well and guys decide that they want to go there. It becomes an attractive place for people to want to go. So it's not gutting all your salary from your team and wishing that you'll sign a guy in free agency, but it's allowing you to where if you were to talk to a guy in free agency and they were to say, I do want to come to Sacramento, it gives you an option to clear up some of that cap space to offer a big contract without messing with your starting 5.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think the only thing that you look at on this team and you say to yourself, does this team have a legit star? And I think for some of these guys like Miles Turner and even Karis LeVert to a degree, they've never really been given the opportunity to be a star. And maybe Tyrese Haliburton is the same way a little bit. A lot of people think that he can be a star. He just needs to, like we're doing here, have a team that's basically given to him. Gets De'Aaron Fox off the roster. He doesn't have to worry about playing second fiddle alongside him anymore. It's his team. He has veteran leadership around him. So can, 1 or 2 or even 3 of these guys take the next step in their progression as basketball players to become stars in this league? Because that ultimately is what is going to define whether this team is successful or not.
Yep.
You can't be one of the top teams in this league without having legit star power on your roster.
And we've heard from Miles Turner that he wants that opportunity. He wants to be moved to a team where he's not playing with a Sabonis. He's not playing with a guy that's going to cut into his minutes. And this gives him that path in Sacramento. And we've all seen the chemistry between Tyrese Haliburton and the big man.
Right.
It keeps Rashawn Holmes. It allows him to get healthy through the rest of the season, be ready next year. And I think a Miles Turner, Tyrese Haliburton tandem could be pretty incredible.
I think it could be very, very good for sure. And I guess I will say, after my last statement about needing star power, there are always exceptions to the rule, like the 04 Pistons and stuff like that. But the team has to click together so perfectly for those scenarios to happen. Mm-hmm. Not to say that this roster couldn't do that, but you would expect to need one of these guys, a couple of these guys, to take the next step. Miles Turner needs to become, more of a all-star level caliber player on the front line. And again, probably hasn't been given the opportunity to with the role that he's been used in Indiana. Tyrese got to become a better overall player. Karis LeVert has been a great scorer in this league for a long time, but can he do, the other things necessary to be a legit player on a legit team, like play real lockdown defense, rebound, things like that? I think you know what you're going to get from Marcus Smart and Rashawn Holmes, but those would be the two guys out of that starting five that I wouldn't really say I need them to take the next step, Those two guys are going to be rocks doing what they do best, rebounding, defense, for Marcus Smart, vocal leadership, all stuff like that. The other three players would be the ones that you'd want to see, take that next step and become true, legit players.
Yep, I agree. What's up, Bryce? Good to have you here. Yeah, it was a really tough loss tonight. I don't know if it hurts more, these games where they're down by 30 or 60, or games like this where they're up and they actually had a chance. But welcome to Group Therapy. We're talking about trades again, and we will be talking about those until February 10th, or until something big happens.
Until a trade happens.
Until something big happens. That brings me to my next subject, Calvin, and that's Buddy Hield. I think you and I have been talking about trading Buddy for a little while now, and he seems to have been struggling as of late. I read a report this morning that Cleveland is trying to make a run this season. They're playing pretty well. We all have seen the huge lineup that they're putting out on the court. They've had some injury issues. Colin Sexton is out. We saw Ricky Rubio out. They made some deals to try and bring in some other guys. But I guess what I heard today was they're willing to move on from their first-round pick this season, and they're willing to move on from a guy like Ricky Rubio because he's out, to add in wing depth or guards to help them in the playoffs. Do you think this could mean that Buddy Hield could be headed to Cleveland? And would you be okay with a first-round pick, Ricky Rubio? Maybe they need a filler. I know they have a trade exemption as well for a guy like Buddy Hield.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised to hear of a potential Buddy Hield deal to any team, really. I mean, I feel like Buddy Hield has got to be the one player on this team that the Kings are trying to trade above any others, even though the whole roster potentially is open. Buddy Hield's like that first guy. I mean, they've been trying to trade him since draft night this season.
Before that.
Well, yes, but just in this year alone, that's when it all started for him. That particular deal that you just mentioned to Cleveland for possibly a first-round pick and or Ricky Rubio / somebody else, that is, I know I said that I would be willing to trade Buddy Hield for a lot of things. That's probably not one of them, though. The first-round pick is okay, but again, they're going to be a playoff team, so it's not a lottery pick. It's not going to be – you certainly could end up with a great player but the probability of that is not very high. And then taking on an injured point guard in Ricky Rubio when you've already got 3 of them doesn't seem like a very sensible thing to do if I'm Sacramento. So probably a pass for me on that particular deal. Maybe there's something else that Cleveland could offer that I would say yes to, but I would not trade him for Ricky Rubio in a first-round pick.
Yeah. I think the only chance a deal like this has of happening is if the Kings hit the F it button.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're trading everybody. We're willing to take on salary. We want first-round picks. What's up, Brian? Healed for Allen. I would love to have Jared Allen.
I would do
on
that
this team.
deal in a heartbeat, but we all know Cleveland's not doing that. So
how many first-round picks from Sacramento is it going to take to make that deal happen?
it reminds me of, I'm pretty sure it's McCamey. He puts up in the chat over and over again, it's like 5 unprotected first-rounders for Rudy Gobert every time.
I mean, it's funny because we laugh at stuff like this, but
at the end of the day, it might actually make sense.
The Clippers did a deal like that, right?
Yeah,
like
did.
we
did.
We didn't hear anything about Paul George being available, right?
Yeah.
Like we didn't hear anything. He had just signed a new contract with Oklahoma City, and then all of a sudden Kawhi Leonard signs with the Clippers, and the Clippers give up 80 million draft picks for Paul George. So it's possible.
It's possible, but you know, the Clippers already had Kawhi Leonard. So from their perspective, it's like, yes, of course we're willing to give up whatever future we might have because it's all about right now.
Yeah.
The Kings are not in that position. There's no player in this league, no one player that you could tell me will give the whatever team it is 5 or 6 first-round picks. We'll get that player on this team, and we've got a shot to win.
You wouldn't do that
just
for
doesn't
Giannis?
happen. I would do that, but I'm saying that the Kings are not in the same position as LA in that getting Giannis on the team, even if you kept Fox and Haliburton, that would be a much better team than what they are now. But they're not winning a championship next year. They need more than that. And they're probably not going to be able to get it if you have to trade 5 first-round picks just to get Giannis, you know?
Bags for Braun. I think that's our cue that we need to move on here. Gothan, you're funny, man. We really appreciate you and all the support you've given us. I hope you're going to come see us in Sacramento on the 8th and the 9th for that Timberwolves game because we owe you a beer or a wine or a cocktail.
Vodka and Mountain Dew, apparently.
We owe you something. But, yeah, I just want to remind you all, Calvin and I will be in Sacramento the 8th and the 9th at the games. And we'd love to see you guys there. We really would. All right, Calvin, any other trades you want to talk about, or are we ready to move on here?
Please, no more trades.
All right, we won't talk about trades till the next game. All right, guys, we're going to take another quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at the Kings' next week of basketball action with Kings Crusade.